Hey guys, it's Ashley, and today's video is going to be all about Ownvoices books. So September 15th was the start of National Hispanic Heritage Month, which means that in today's video I'm going to be talking about all of the Hispanic and Latino Ownvoices books that are currently on my TBR. This video is in paid promotion with Disney Book Group. They sent me a finished copy of The Storm Runner by J.C. Cervantes. I always want to say her last name with, rolling my R's because my years of Spanish has just taught me to do that whenever I see some kind of a Spanish word, but I always feel like I'm not gonna do it justice. Cervantes. That's what I usually say. As you guys know, I have been eagerly anticipating this book for months now. Ever since I found out that Rick Riordan was making his own imprint of Disney Publishing, I have been wanting to read all of the books, and I was so excited when I was approached with this video because I read it. The Storm Runner by J.C. Cervantes is, like I said, being published under the Rick Riordan Presents imprint, a new imprint of Disney Publishing that is dedicated to publishing Ownvoices books where authors can share their stories of their own races and heritages. And The Storm Runner is exactly as it is described. It is an imaginative, high-stakes story all about Mayan mythology. And I can say that because I actually have already finished this book, and I have so many thoughts on it. I absolutely loved it. 5 stars. I have no better things to say. If you want to hear all of my thoughts, I am going to have a miniature review going up sometime soon. It's either going to go up before this video or after, so just keep an eye out no matter what. So The Storm Runner is a story that follows a boy named Zane Obispo. He is living in New Mexico with his mom, his uncle, and his 3-legged dog Rosie. And he lives right next to a volcano. One day he sees this plane crash into the volcano and he goes to see what happens. One event leads to another. He meets a girl named Brooks who just somehow randomly appears, and he suddenly gets thrust into this world of Mayan mythology. He finds out he's part of this prophecy that involves the Mayan god of death, Apush, and himself, and he, like I said, is kind of thrust into this world and is forced to try to basically save the world after he nearly destroys it. The Storm Runner is in stores now if you are interested. It comes out September 18th, so you can go ahead and pick up your copy if you'd like. This book is hilarious. It is so fun. It's got all of the wonderful things that you would want in a book. It's just so great. It was also the perfect book to kick off National Hispanic Heritage Month for me, so without further ado, let me get into the other books that I have had on my TBR that are Ownvoices. So the first book that I have on this list is Wild Beauty by Anna Marie McLemore. I actually didn't know that this book was Ownvoices until I did a little bit of research on Ownvoices books, and I actually found this one on the list. From my research, I believe this book follows a family who is Mexican American. The story behind this book, I actually didn't do that much looking into when I first got it, but for this video I did read a little bit more about the summary, and it sounds so much better than it originally did. So basically you have this family whose name I constantly have to slow down in order to pronounce, so I'm sorry for this. Nomealvides? That's how I'm gonna say it because I literally can't find a pronunciation or can figure out how to pronounce it correctly. You have this family who has been keeping the grounds of La Pradera in full bloom for generations. So they have this gift to, make things grow. But they also have this curse. They can't actually leave these grounds unless they want to die. And something even more interesting, when a Nomealvide woman falls in love, the earth will actually take her lover. So we follow one of the characters of this family named Estrella, who lives on this land with her 5, I believe, cousins, and one day a young boy shows up who knows nothing of where he is from or what his name is other than the first 3 letters of his name, and these girls, especially Estrella, who we follow, has to figure out how he got here, who he is, and what is happening at this place. Like I said, this book sounds really good, especially now that I've actually looked into the plot and not just read it really quickly for a video synopsis, so I'm really excited to start this very soon. Something else that's really interesting, Ashley from Ashley Outpaged, when we were in Orlando, we were looking at the synopsis, and she actually Google translated their last name, Nomealvides, and it means do not forget me, because their whole curse is that they send their lovers away to save them rather than have them being taken by the earth, so they don't want them to do not forget me. Just it's so cool. So the next book or books that I'm going to talk about are Adam Silvera's, specifically They Both Die at the End and What If It's Us, which he co-wrote with Becky Albertalli. I'm not sure if his other books contain characters that share his, you know, half Puerto Rican ancestry, but these are the books that I'm pretty sure do. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. Like I said, I had to do deep digging into this too because I just always question myself and, you know, whether I know if an author is a certain, you know, his heritage or has a certain background. I always have to like actually like read interviews and things to find out if this person really is, you know, what I'm thinking. But so that's what I did for Adam because I just truly did not know. But I did find out he has said in an interview before that he is half Puerto Rican, and so I do believe these books, They Both Die at the End and What If It's Us, have a character who shares that with him. His books are always, you know, so revered on BookTube, and everybody pretty much knows what they're about. Specifically, They Both Die at the End is all about these two characters. I believe their names are Rufus and Mateo, and they both find out in this world within 24 hours that they are going to die. And so they go on this app that kind of is for people who find out they're going to die and can connect and live their last day together. And they do that. And it's just their story of their last day. And I've yet to read this book, even though I've had it for over a year now. And I just like, I just need to get on it. The next book that I have on my TBR, I don't actually physically have, but I have heard a lot about it, and it is I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter by Erica L. Sanchez. I believe this book actually won the National Book Award. Yeah, a National Book Award finalist, which is crazy. According to the Penguin website, which I'm reading off now, it's the absolutely true diary of a part-time Indian meets Jane the Virgin. I haven't seen or read either of those, but I know that they are well loved, so I'm sure this book is amazing. Plus, I've heard a lot about it, so I know it's good. So we follow Julia, who has never been known to be the perfect Mexican daughter. That has always been her sister Olga's role in the family. But one day, a tragic accident leaves Olga dead, and Julia is left behind to reassemble the shattered pieces of her family. And no one seems to acknowledge that Julia is broken too. Instead, her mother seems to channel her grief into pointing out every possible way that Julia has failed. But it's not long before Julia discovers that Olga might not have been as perfect as everyone thought. This story sounds very, very raw, very, I don't want to say gritty, but just very, emotional all around. It's just something that sounds so good and so interesting, so I'm very eager to pick this up. So the next book that I have on this list is called The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. I actually had this book on this list before I went to BookNet Fest, and at BookNet Fest I actually heard Marinas from My Name is Marinas talk about this book as one of the books that really she saw herself in. I think that's what the question on that panel was. And she just had so many great things to say about it. So it just made me so much more eager to actually read it. This book follows a character of Afro-Dominican descent, which is also what Elizabeth Acevedo is, which makes it even more interesting because it's not Mexican, which we see a lot, which I've talked about. I think in 2 of these books already have had Mexican main characters. So this is really interesting that it's, you know, a biracial girl. Let me tell you what it's all about. So it is all about slam poetry. Elizabeth Acevedo is actually a slam poet. This girl, I really want to pronounce her name right. I think it's Xiomara. It starts with an X, but I think it's pronounced as a Z. So Xiomara, she grows up in Harlem, and her mother is very, very religious, and she's struggling between understanding herself, her place in this world, and her place within her mother's beliefs. She's also, you know, as she's grown up, become a lot more curvier and kind of not really insecure, but not knowing what to do with her body. So she's kind of grown into being able to have her fierceness do all the talking for her. So she takes all of these feelings that she has about the world and she pours them into this leather notebook where nobody can see it but herself. One day she is invited to her school's slam poetry event, and she doesn't know how she can go through with this and still, you know, follow in her mother's beliefs, but she knows that this is something that she has to do for herself. And so the story is all about her trying to find that, I want to say, balance, I believe, between, you know, what her family wants from her and what she wants. and then what the world wants at the same time. It's just one of those books that when you read the synopsis, it just sounds so good and so rich with just everything, and so I'm so excited to read it. Something else that I actually didn't know about it, apparently the book is written in verse, and the audiobook is narrated by Elizabeth Acevedo herself, who performs it in the slam poet style. So that is something that really makes me interested in listening to it, especially because I want a new audiobook to listen to on my drives to work, so I'm definitely going to be hopefully picking that up sometime in the future. The next book that I have is actually another brand new release, and it is another middle grade. It just came out September 11th, and that is Dactyl Hill Squad by Danielle Jose Older. I was actually sent this ARC by Scholastic, so thank you so much, but I haven't yet picked it up, but I've seen it, I feel like, everywhere, and I don't know why. So I decided to look at the synopsis and see what it said, and it sounds really good and really interesting. Basically, this is a middle grade historical fiction fantasy. It's like blending everything in one. So it's 1863, and dinosaurs roam the streets of New York as the Civil War rages between raptor-mounted armies down south. This is a book set in the 1860s where people in the North and South are fighting the Civil War on dinosaurs. Does it get any better than that? We follow a girl named Magdalise Ropa, who is part of the Colored Orphan Asylum, and on a field trip when these riots break out, some of her classmates are taken prisoner. So she and her friends end up fleeing to Dactyl Hill neighborhood, which is a place where Black and brown New Yorkers have created a local independent community. They learn how to ride these dinosaurs, and they go to save their friends. And it sounds just so fun and so great, and I am very excited to actually pick this up at some point because I didn't really know what it was about to begin with, and now I'm just really interested. And of course, the final book that has been on my TBR up until I read it recently for National Hispanic Heritage Month is The Storm Runner by J.C. Cervantes. I'm telling you, you guys, if you want a really good, you know, mythological middle grade book that is just like Percy Jackson, please pick this book up. It's so cute and so good. I'm so glad that I read it. So those are going to be all of the Ownvoices books, specifically Hispanic and Latino Ownvoices books that are currently on my TBR. As with anything else that, you know, you don't have knowledge of beforehand, I am continuously doing my research to understand, you know, even just the slight difference between Hispanic and Latino. So if anything that I said in this video was incorrect in the slightest possible way, I do apologize. I'm still continuing to work on my knowledge of all of these things because I'm interested in learning. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen and for teaching me different things that I don't know before. Thank you so much once again to Disney Book Group for sponsoring this video and for sending me The Storm Runner by J.C. Cervantes. You can go and pick it up now in stores. I highly suggest that you do because it's so fun, it's so good. I really want everybody to read it so that they can experience this with me. Also, the second book is already slated to come out next year, so please recommend to me any other Ownvoices books that you have on your TBR, specifically Hispanic or Latino, but they could be any Ownvoices books because everything is important. That is going to be it. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I will catch you later. Goodbye!